Okay, happy to be joined by one of the most entertaining fighters in Cage Warriors. Power by name, power by nature. James Power is here, and he is back in action May 25th at Cage Warriors 172 in Newcastle. James, how you doing this really beautiful Friday afternoon here? I
Yeah,
don't know how it is where you are.
yeah, it's been class today. To be fair, mate, the weather's beautiful at the minute, isn't it? But yeah, no, I'm doing good, mate. Thank you. Yourself?
I'm good, thanks. Obviously, fight coming up in just 2 weeks. Daniel Kolasiński is the opponent this time round. Been a quick turnaround for you. Obviously, you fought just in March. Was that your call to take another fight so soon, or was that Cage Warriors coming to you, being like, "Hey, we'd really love to get you on this one," or was it just all your call?
Well, I just kind of spoke to my coach, Kamakuru, just in the lead up to this fight we just had in Manchester. I just said, look, if things go to plan in this fight, I'd really like to get another one in quickly this year, before summer preferably. So I'd already eyed up the Newcastle card date wise as like a good kind of time scale. If we came out unscathed, that we could turn it around quickly and get some momentum going this year and get another one done.
Yeah, looking back, how do you reflect on that last fight in March? Obviously, first time you'd won via a decision. On the night, you talked to our guy Kyle. You called it a 5 out of 10 performance. Looking back with time, watching it back, how do you reflect on that fight?
Yeah, still don't think it was like my proudest performance by any means. I do kind of pride myself on being a fan friendly fighter most of the time. I just felt like on the night, his style was super erratic, quite hard to deal with. No sort of like method to what he was doing or any kind of timing to get a read on. So ultimately, controlling him in the grappling is what was going to win me the fight. And like I say, it meant I came away unscathed. Like even when I've won by knockout before, like my hands are sore or like bashed up my shin or whatever. That fight I came away absolutely fresh. So yeah, it was a good performance. To beat a high level guy, European standard fighter. But I'm definitely pushing for a bigger performance this time out.
You talk about wanting to be like an entertainment fighter there, a fan friendly fighter, as you called it. Do you feel there's less pressure on you now you've got that decision win? Obviously, you took your first loss recently as well. You took your first loss, which so many fighters talk about as like almost a positive, just like lifting a weight off of you. And they have been to decision as well. Do you feel there's less pressure on you now to kind of obviously you still want to go in there and get those finishes, but when you're an undefeated fighter who's finished all his opponents, it's a bit different, right? There's that expectation.
Yeah, definitely. There's an expectation that starts to be there, and there's almost like an extra pressure. But um, to be honest, I just think it's the way I prefer to fight. So I don't really feel it too much on the night as the extra pressure. Definitely in the build up, it's kind of in the back of your head, I suppose. You know what people are saying about you and things like that. But on the night, mate, a lot of that goes out the window. I'm just there to do business, and like I generally enjoy a good tear up most of the time. So it kind of puts me in those positions to have those kind of fights. And fortunately for me, I've got the skills to kind of pull out the win in those situations as well.
Yeah, obviously we've got this fight coming up in just a couple of weeks. Daniel Kolasiński is the opponent. He's been fighting in mainland Europe, but it's his Cage Warriors debut. What are your thoughts on him coming in? What have you seen in his game?
I seen he had quite an extensive kickboxing background, similar to myself. So again, I think stylistically, it's a great fight from Cage Warriors. I think you should hopefully see some high level kickboxing during the bout. But I'm not sleeping on any of his grappling either. I know that he's training at the same gym as one of my former opponents, Capero, who's a very astute grappler and a veteran of the game. So I know he'll have been training with good people. So I expect him to have a well-rounded game overall. But I just think from the things that I've seen, I definitely think there's holes in his game and definitely things that I can exploit in that matchup.
Yeah. One thing I always like to ask fighters is what's going to be different about the guy stepping into the cage versus the guy that we saw last time. Obviously, that was just 2 months ago for you. So I'm going to tweak it slightly. How do you balance generally training to try and improve yourself versus specifically training for the guy when there's such a short time frame?
Yeah, I think especially with the fight leading up to fighting Rocker, I suppose we did a bit of specialist stuff in terms of like we'd seen he got the really fast guillotine finish. So I spent a lot of time making sure I was doing the right things when I was working the cage, not putting my head in the bad positions, and if so, how to get out of that and escape the guillotine and stuff like that. Whereas for this fight, because it has been a quick turnaround, I've not overly looked into him. Like I say, I've watched a few tapes on him, got a general idea of what he likes to do. And other than that, we've just been training my strengths, and just improving on the whole for this one, and just try to upgrade my skill set, as well as staying sharp from the last fight camp, and try not to dip off too much. So it's been a little bit of an easier one in the sense that I hadn't had too much time to stew over it. Just had to get in there and get to work, really.
And I guess that the benefit of that is the fact that he's a kickboxer. That's your bread and butter as well. It's not like you're having a grappler in front of you that you've got to do specific stuff. Kickboxing, that's your world. So
yeah, definitely, mate. Like I say, I think stylistically it's a great fight from Cage Warriors, and the Indians put together a good one here. And I think we could definitely be stealing fight of the night between us if everything goes as we'd expect it to.
Yeah, another one is a bit different, but another one on how you balance things, because you're a guy with a lot going on. You obviously run the gym, head coach of Powerhouse Fight Club. What's the process of you kind of balancing the day-to-day management of the gym, teaching your students, and then fight camp, and being a dad as well, of course? That's a lot to balance. How are you able to do all of that, making sure you're giving everything the time it needs? Because just looking from the outside, that feels like a lot.
Yeah, it is a lot, mate. To be fair, it's a lot of early mornings to try and fit my training in, or to coach people, to then get my own training in later in the day and stuff like that, and then still have time to come home and see the family before I go coach classes on an evening. But really, it's just having a good structure to my day. Like, I plan every day, nothing's winged. All my training sessions every week are like, right, I'm training at this time on this day, and that doesn't change for anything. And then I'm seeing my son and my missus this time of day and stuff like that. And I'm quite grateful I've got a supportive family around me that want to see me do this, so they don't give me too much grief from not being around too often, and things like that. And they're very supportive in trying to help me have the free time to go and train. And then obviously coaching the guys, it's obviously the classes are set week on week. I've got a little bit of help at the gym with a couple of other coaches that help me out and cover some of the classes for me as well, which just gives me a little bit of extra downtime to recover on the days where I'm not necessarily needed up at the gym. But most of the classes are taught by myself, but I generally enjoy it, to be honest. I see it as getting a few extra reps in most of the techniques that I teach, and things like that. So it's tough. I'm not going to lie, it's hard to do, but I just think if you give yourself a good structure and good organisation, it is doable to do these things.
Yeah, I realised I forgot to include taking time out to do things like this. So obviously very appreciative that you've taken the time for this one. You're a very busy man. Yeah. George Hardwick, champion of your division. How far away do you feel you are with a win here towards getting into that title discussion?
I felt like I had loads of momentum going into the Pagani fight. Obviously beating Shelley, and stopping him in his home country, and he's gone on to win every fight since he fought me, which I just think gives me a little bit more clout to the performance I'm putting against him, shows how good he is. And obviously coming off that to beating Capera, who'd fought George as well, making Capera retire on the stool. Felt like I had loads of momentum going into that Pagani fight, and Pagani was somebody that people in Italy were ducking, undefeated guy as well. Stepped into enemy territory again there to fight him in Rome. Lost the decision there. I felt like it was a close fight. I think the last round just cost me then. I think had I won that fight, we could have been talking about my last fight being potentially for title or number one contender status. So I think with the win over a good opponent like Rocker, who again was coming off a good win himself, I think I must already be up there in I think George is a great champion. I've had the pleasure of training with George a couple of times as well. I'm sure it'll not be long before he moves on to bigger things and a bigger platform. And I'd like to be one of the guys that are there to fight for the belt. I'm not getting any younger, So the sooner it happens for me, the better.
Yeah, you mentioned there. Obviously, you fought Shelley in Ireland. You fought Pagani in Italy. You like these kind of rowdy crowds against you. They're not necessarily going to be against you this time, but Newcastle's definitely going to be a rowdy crowd, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely, mate. I can imagine it's going to be a great atmosphere. Probably similar to the Manchester cards as well. Obviously, it feels a bit more of a home turf match in Manchester. It's not far from me, and the gym I train at is actually in Manchester as well. So, but Newcastle's not far from us either. A couple of hours drive. So, yeah, I'm really looking forward to the atmosphere there. It looked great the last card they did there. I watched live, and it seemed that way. Yeah.
Selfishly, you should come down south. Would love to have you on one of the London cards, but I'm sure you're very happy staying close to home, so I'm not going to push you.
Yeah, I mean, I'd love to do the London card. The venue for the London cards looks incredible. To be fair, like it looks like really close in. You know,
it's a great venue.
Theatre type setting. I can imagine the atmosphere there is pretty cool as well. So yeah, maybe later this year it's something that Cage Warriors might offer me a London card potentially.
Yeah, a little bit of quick fire. Some of these are MMA related, some of these aren't. Okay.
No worries.
What's your favorite meal?
Oh, favorite meal. That's a tough one. I'm gonna say like a burger and chips.
Favorite snack?
Favorite snack. Wow. I like my sweets and I like sour sweets as well. So I'll have to say like have you ever had the drumstick sour squishies? I'm gonna say them. Yeah.
Favorite drink?
Favorite drink? Probably Pepsi Max.
Favorite breakfast cereal?
Oh, I'm gonna say Weetabix Minis, the chocolate chip ones.
That's all the food ones out the way now, so you haven't got to worry about that anymore while you're preparing for a fight. Favorite TV show?
Favorite TV show of all time, I'm gonna probably say Sons of Anarchy.
Favorite movie?
Favorite movie? Oh, that's another good question. I'm gonna say Troy.
Favorite fighter?
Favorite fighter of all time, I'm gonna say Andy Hug. Currently active, probably Max Holloway.
Yeah. Favorite fight?
Favorite fight is probably Michael Chandler versus Eddie Alvarez 2.
Favorite sport other than MMA?
Favorite sport other than MMA? Well, I like a few, but I'm gonna say basketball for that one.
Yeah. Who's your team?
Boston Celtics.
Middle of the playoffs, man.
Yeah. Well, they just lost. I think last night it was, or the night before potentially. It's always hard to keep track of with the American timings, so I always have to.
I was gonna say, are you able to stay up? Are you able to stay up and watch some, or is it gonna mess up with your fight prep too much?
Yeah, never get to. Occasionally, I'll watch one live when they sometimes put the games on in the playoffs really early in America. It's like an afternoon thing, and it's on in the evening over here sometimes. So I watched one of the games in round one. Was on at a suitable time for us, so I got to watch that game live. But most of the time, I was watching highlights. To be fair.
Yeah. Favorite band or musician?
Favorite band or musician? So Chris Stapleton for that one, definitely.
Funniest person you've been around in MMA?
Funniest person I've been around in MMA? Wow, funniest. I'm probably going to give that one to one of my boys, Stevie Guest.
And the best piece of advice you've been given?
Best piece of advice I've been given? That's a really good question. Probably just been told by quite a few different people, to be fair, is not to care what other people think. And that's definitely a solid one.
All right, that's going to wrap us up. Just thanks for taking the time today, James. Very excited for the fight in a couple of weeks. Feel free to shout out any sponsors and let people know where they can follow what you're doing.
Excellent, mate. Yeah, so I'd like to shout out Wolf Sups. They're one of my sponsors, a really good supplement company. Highly recommend their products. I use them every fight and every fight camp as well. Elevate Gym in Wakefield, my own gym, Powers Fight Club, Born Global, Sportswear, Bow Prep Kitchen, a really good meal prep kitchen local to myself, and Iced Out, which is a jewelry shop. They sponsor me, and I think that's about everybody. So yeah, guys, if you want to watch the fight, please go on my bio to grab yourselves a ticket. And I look forward to seeing you all there in Newcastle.
Yeah, just what give us the hard sell. When yourself, Daniel Kolasiński, step into the cage, what can people expect?
Oh, I think everybody already knows what to expect. If you've watched many of my fights, you know what style I bring. And if you've seen any of Daniel's fights, you know what he's capable of as well. So like I said before, I think Ian Dean's put an absolute belting matchup together here. And I'm really, really looking forward to it, having a good old fist fight on May 25th.
Perfect. Thanks for taking the time today, James. Best of luck.
No problem. Thank you, mate. See you later.
Thanks.